The silvery leaf shrubs you see near the water channels are coyote willow. They play a very important role in river ecosystems. They are browsed by elk and deer, and several species of birds eat the willow buds and insects that the willows attract. In the spring, you will notice warblers and flycatchers flitting in and out of these dense shrubs, and several species of birds also nest in the willow's branches. We humans have benefited from this plant as well. Historically, Native Americans used various preparations from willows to treat everything from a toothache to dandruff. Native Americans also used the stems for basketry and bow making and the bark for tea. In many places during pioneer days, willows were used in the construction of fences, shelters for livestock, and even for firewood. In a few moments, you will reach the Chupadera deck. All of our decks were built by volunteers and the Refuge staff and are specifically there to view our migratory water birds and raptors in the winter. The fields below the decks are dry at this time of year, but you can survey the cottonwoods and willows for songbirds, or look for some of our year-round wildlife, such as coyotes, Rio Grande wild turkeys, deer, and javelina. If you do stop at any of the decks, remember to pause the audio and restart it once you leave. Unfortunately, at the decks you might also notice the buzz and bites of mosquitoes. While mosquitoes may seem like useless pests to us, they do play an important role in ecology. Mosquitoes are eaten by swallows, bats, and even dragonflies. Mosquito eggs are eaten by other insects, and the developing mosquitoes may feed dabbling ducks. One group of mosquitoes called floodwater mosquitoes lay eggs in the soil and stay dormant for years until they are saturated by rain or floodwater. And did you know that mosquitoes feed on nectar and are plant pollinators? Male mosquitoes live exclusively on nectar, while female mosquitoes drink nectar and draw blood from other animals. Females need the protein and iron in blood to produce eggs. You have probably noticed that mosquitoes are most active at dawn and dusk. During the heat of the day, most mosquitoes will rest in a cool, protected area, such as a willow thicket, to wait for the evening. However, should a blood donor walk by and wake a female mosquito from her midday slumber, well... Another creature at the refuge that people tend to have an aversion to are snakes. In a Gallup poll that asked adults what they were most afraid of, 51% reported a fear of snakes. This was more than any other suggested possibility, including 40% who said speaking in public and 27% who reported spiders and insects. Even though half of the adult population fear snakes, there's at least one really beneficial thing they do: eat rodents, which controls rodent populations and the diseases some rodents spread. The snake that you will most likely see in the summer is the western diamond-backed rattlesnake. The western diamondback has very distinct black and white stripes at the end of its tail. You can often see them, and those black and white stripes, slithering across the road. However, in the hot afternoons, they usually seek shade and coil up under low-growing shrubs, piles of debris, or large rocks. Western diamondbacks are pit vipers. This means they have heat-sensing pits, loreal pits, located behind each nostril that can detect differences in temperature, sometimes differences that are only a fraction of a degree apart. The heat given off by an animal is detected by the snake, helping it to determine predator from prey. And did you know that the amount of rattle segments doesn't necessarily identify the snake's age? It actually counts how many times the rattlesnake has shed its skin, and they may shed at different rates per year. If you hear the rattle, it is a warning. Rattlesnakes will make every effort to avoid contact with people. We are far more dangerous to this secretive animal than it is to us. Offer them respect, observe them from a safe distance, and then leave them to perform their valuable ecological function. The only good snake is a live snake. Did you know that wild turkeys eat snakes? As you drive near the open fields and woodland areas, be on the lookout for wild turkeys. They can be seen at the refuge year-round. New Mexico is home to 3 of the 5 North American subspecies: the Merriam's, the Rio Grande, and the Gould's turkey. The Rio Grande turkey calls the refuge home, and they have tan or buff-colored rump and tail feather tips. The Merriam's have lighter, ashy white-tipped feathers and are found in high-elevation forests. And Gould's, which are mostly found in Mexico, have almost pure white tail feathers. Early European explorers took wild turkeys to Europe in the 1500s. They did so well that English colonists brought them back when they settled on the Atlantic coast. The domesticated turkeys still have the white tail tips, which is a marker used to distinguish wild from domestic. As you are driving this section of the refuge, look for groups of Rio Grande turkeys down the closed side roads and in the open fields. Would you ever have guessed that there was a devastating fire in this area? In 1996, the San Pedro fire was ignited by arson and burned thousands of acres on the refuge. Prior to burning, this area to the left was a salt cedar and cottonwood forest. Salt cedar burns extremely hot, which is another reason it's bad for the ecosystem. Historically, fire played a very small role in the Bosque. Flooding was the major force that cleared debris and kept the ecosystem healthy. If there was a naturally occurring fire, it would have slowly burned through the undergrowth, causing minor damage and removing the dead plant litter on the ground. After the San Pedro fire, it seemed like it would be decades before this part of the refuge had a chance of returning to viable habitat. But it is amazing how fast nature can recover. Even though this area isn't cottonwood forest anymore, it is now a native screwbean mesquite grassland habitat that is used by many animals. Today, since natural flooding of the river rarely occurs, the refuge uses prescribed fire to shuffle the cards in an ecosystem. Prescribed fire clears forest floors to allow new growth of understory plants and grasses while depositing nutrients in the soil. It opens areas allowing for deer and elk to travel throughout their habitat and birds of prey to see their next meal from the air. Fire often leaves dead trees which host a variety of bugs for woodpeckers and flickers to eat and serve as excellent perches for eagles, hawks, owls, egrets, cormorants, and others. Refuge staff does prescribe burning when weather, fuel, and soil moisture conditions are just right. Without perfect conditions, fires can cause too much damage or not burn at all.